Oh, I need a hand. No, I think I'm doing just great on my own. Hold on. Is this better? Is that all right?
Yes.
All right. Oh, I'm so sorry. I do not pretend to let you think that it will get any better during the course of this show. I mean, once I start actually saying these poems, you may become nostalgic for that sound you just heard. I've got a third codpiece that has is much worse than this one. It vibrates and has 7 different terror settings. That one I've named the Widowmaker. Let's see. Now, how many of you have never been to this show before? Never been to it before? That is about what I like to see. I always like to see new people at the show. And I'm aware that as an audience, you may be feeling burdened by the expectations that many other shows place upon you. And I will not be one of those shows. I will not at any time tell you to applaud me. If you feel like applauding, knock yourselves silly, but I will not legislate your approval. Also, at no point will I remove this shirt and expect you all to go woo. Oh, is that really disappointing to you? Well, let me point you to the Tortuga twins. They will give you all the awe, the woo-woo enthusiasm that you need. Finally, along the same lines, at no point will I drag a man onto that stage and force him to wear coconut tits and a mop head. Thank you very much. I'm sure there are always people who are weary of that, and they always have to sit through it, but not at my show. Is it time for this show to begin?
Yes.
Yeah! Well, I agree with you, except for the fact that as I cast my eyes out at the audience, I cannot help but see some young faces. And look at what is happening right now. This is a man who is so honorable that he is protecting his child from this show. And what we do for a man like that is we honor him. Yes. We applaud him, right?
Yay!
Don't worry, child. Someday you will look back at this with appreciation for the man that your father is. And the rest of you bastards. I want to say welcome to this show. But I am no ordinary milquetoast feel-good poet. What you're about to see is not the poetry of silk doilies, courtly love, and chamber music. No, no, no. It is the poetry of the gutters and the alleyways. It is the poetry of syphilis and hermaphrodites. Of the premature birth, popped out by the string and doorknob method. It is the poetry of the surreptitious fart, turned unfortunately liquid. And of the dry hump against the unsuspecting leg, as administered by a pointy-headed midget with epilepsy. Now, why would I tell you all these things? I'm telling you because at some point in this show, you may very well decide it is not to your liking and you would like to leave. That's all right. In fact, I almost encourage it. Because what I propose we have is what I like to describe as an affectionate commerce between us. What I mean by that is that at any point, if you find this is not your cup of tea, well, I feel you should be able to leave this show without feeling mocked in any way. And for our part, we who choose to stay, we shall not mock you for leaving. No, on the contrary, we will honor you. We will, as we did that man, applaud you no less enthusiastically than do the subliterate bastards who wallow in this crap.
Yes.
Because by leaving my show, you have shown better judgment than we have. And by leaving this show, you have restored some measure of dignity to this God-forsaken festival. Are we all in agreement?
Yes.
Well then, without any further ado, my good friends, who would like to hear something wildly inappropriate? A little bit about myself. As I said, my name is Arthur Greenleaf Holmes. I was born in the small English seaside town of Stoke-on-Trent by Darcy upon Avon by the sea. I was born sometime between the years 1547 and 1552, a period later to be known as the gay 1547s through 1552s. My father was a wet nurse, And my mother died while attempting to pleasure an anvil. Successfully, as it turns out. I am also the only poet of the entire English language to have rhymed the word egg with the word masturbation. Most of my earliest poetry, or what the scholars call the juvenilia, took the form of flower odes and lamentations upon what was to prove to be an extremely late arriving puberty. In fact, my testicles failed to descend until I was 32 years old. When finally they did, I was in Ireland. It was then that I developed my mature voice as a poet. This is the first poem I wrote from that mature voice. It is entitled, The Wee Irish Man. As I went down to Donegal one morning for to spy, the restless sea entangled with a vexed and furied sky, I saw a little Irish man dancing in the glen. Tell me, little Irish man, and then tell me again. I see a sack hanging there, dangling by your side. Prithee, little Irish man, do tell what be inside. What be this inside me sack? A mumbly spark for sure. It wiggles, waggles, does a jig, then knocks you to the floor. And here's a Katy bar the door, no bigger than a sigh. Have a whoops the baby too, don't let it hit your eye. A stick it in your kumquat makes a thought-provoking gift. A fudgy in the manhole gives your pants an extra lift. Slap me with a clam pie and yodel up my skirt. Pump it twice and let it rip. Stand back before it squirts. Are we all right? Are we all right? Are you all right? I tried to warn you as best as I could, but how old are you, son? 13. Well, that's an awfully absorbent age. And how old are you, son? 50. Well, you're the elder statesman here, aren't you? Are these your parents? Is this all right? It is. Why is it all right? I mean, I'm not judging you. No one will ever mistake me for a moral leader of any community. But you say they have to learn sometimes? Yes. Yes, I would prefer that wasn't hearing through me, though. But this is all right. But why is it all right? I just want to... You've heard worse? Is that what you're saying? Oh. I don't know why that is supposed to be reassuring to us. Let's just keep going, and we'll see how it goes. Where was I? Juggle me with buttered corn and flog the naughty elf. Cup the dumplings, burp the turnip with friends or by yourself. Wiggle willy in the bush and play the meat flap reed. Stump the pumpkin, jerk the gherkin, make the page boy bleed. On and on he raved until I slowly backed away. I left him in that glen, and he may still be there today. So, please avoid the Irish guy. I'm sure he's working blue. He's filthy, crude, and just plain wrong. And he's a rapist, too. Now, at this point, we probably have a sense of the downward trajectory that this show is going to take. I would like to take this opportunity to remind you of the disclaimer that I issued at the top of the show. Applaud that family. It is a sad day when I'm the defender of children in town. What I want to tell you is that this poem just informed you that in poetry, the bad word is much more benign than the perfectly good words that are employed in an unholy communion of horrific proportions. So, should I continue? Yes! Now that the children are gone, I want to tell you that I am very fond of prostitutes. It's true, I call many prostitutes close friends. In fact, my favorite prostitute is a woman that goes only by the name... Now, This poem is not for her because I'll be damned if anything rhymes with that name. But I've written a poem for my second favorite prostitute. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah.
It is entitled Tavern Floor Tina. Tavern floor Tina, thou fen-sucking whore, with a mouth to be damned and a tongue to abhor. When your meat meets her mouth, well, it's meat mouth galore. Ah, tavern floor Tina, there's a worm in your core. Are we all right? There's a man back there looking through the program for other options. I do not blame you. Shall I keep going?
Yeah.
She'll give you a wink and she'll drag you upstairs, and before you can think, you'll be caught unawares. Elbow deep in the pink with 2 thumbs up your ear. Ah, tavern floor Tina, your sink's full of hair. She'll give you a poor boy, and then Jesus said to the 12 disciples, "Blessed are they who would walk their little fairy children past this show and not stop in the back of a show such as this one, for this is not the kind of a show for a little child wearing fairy wings to be listening to. It is better that the child keep going, perhaps to the heavy petting zoo. Even that would be better than this show." Whose laugh is that? What I like about this town, it's your laugh. What I like about this town is that the women have a different laugh than other places. Other places, they laugh like this. Here they laugh like this. And you enjoy that. Should I keep going with this poem?
Yeah.
Thank you, Fairy Wing Force, for the harp music. It's brilliant accompaniment. She'll give your poor bone every pound that you got. Then she'll slather your dome till your tonsils are hot. You'll need time all alone just to burp up the clot. Oh, tavern floor Tina, I just as soon not. Thank you very much. I don't know how I feel about applauding a man who is essentially shamed into leaving with it. We'll take him how we get him, won't we? Well informed. My God, madam, you have inspired me to write a poem in your honor. It shall be entitled Ode to a Plunging Neckline. Sweet double handfuls of inspiration. Impertinent meat sacks of Eros. Lower thy curtains, let shine thy beams, for the night is newborn, and thy moons be full. Thank you very much. We've got a fairy in the audience. I don't get many fairies in this audience. Thank you for coming. This might be a first. Twig the fairy has never come to my show before. I don't know. Her filthy sister came once. Are you a pirate, sir? Oh, thank you. That's all the evidence that we needed. That's just the response I was looking for. Is it pirate weekend this weekend? Is that what this is?
No.
So many pirates. But it's not pirate weekend.
No.
Huh. I see so many of them. Sometimes I think it must be Fleetwood Mac has not aged well weekend. I don't mean you, of course. I don't mean you at all. We have all these theme weekends. I'm always very late to pick on what it was. Last weekend, it was belly dance weekend or something like that. And I'll tell you, sometimes I judge my own morality by the poems that I write. And I think I'm a horrible person. But every now and then, I choose not to write a poem, and I think it saves me a little bit spiritually. Last weekend I saw a group of aging belly dancers in the field over there, and I chose not to write a poem entitled Ode to a Sloppy C-Section. I did not write that poem.
Too bad.
A while ago, it was my supreme misfortune to be invited to the Duchess of Kensington's for dinner. And as offensive as the meal itself was, the dessert was infinitely worse. In fact, it was less of a dessert and more of a human rights violation on a platter. But I forced it down, and on the third day, when my fever broke and I stopped the bleeding, I wrote this poem. It is entitled, The Tewkesbury Pudding. Oh, the Tewkesbury pudding's a wretched dessert. Just the slightest of bites and your prostate will hurt, your liver will swell, and your colon will squirt, and you'll blow a brown stain up the back of your shirt. I'm increasingly getting a look in the audience that I would describe as the Christian smile. It looks a little like this. Well, the Tewkesbury pudding's a terrible treat. They say it's a bread, but you'll swear it's a meat. And it's hardly a thing for a Christian to eat. It'll blow out the ends of your grandfather's teeth. It chews like placenta. Yes, what? Is that too much? No?
No. Keep going.
Good, I'll say it again. It chews like placenta. Yes, oily and black. If you see one outside, tie it up in a sack. You can give it away, but it always crawls back. Well, it tastes like the drip from a camel toe's crack. Bingo. Oh, it's evil, immoral, and bad to the core, and it's cursed with a smell I find hard to ignore. It'll shoot out your ass, but you'll ask for some more. Why, I split one last night with a preoperative whore. Oh, the Tewkesbury pudding, it's worse than you think, and enlarges the heart, but your penis will shrink. I don't know why I pointed at you now. I don't know what I was thinking. But your penis will You're not shitting blood. Well, you'll need a stiff drink. Jesus Christ, light a match. Hit the fan, clean the sink. It'll cripple your gut with intestinal flu. It'll ripple your twat like a fleshy kazoo. Throw your hands to the sky and ask God what to do. Make the sign of the cross, even though you're a Jew. Applaud them. Oh, they have somewhere else to be. They have somewhere else to be. Applaud them.
Anywhere.
Anyone can leave my show. I do not care. Applaud these people as well. They have somewhere else to be. And I like how people immediately come in and take the seats that are being vacated. It's a bit like when you're roasting marshmallows and your friend's marshmallow bursts into flames. And you briefly utter a sentiment of sympathy before moving your marshmallow over to take advantage of the flaming corpse. These people are now sitting in the flaming marshmallow seats. Ladies and gentlemen, as an audience at this festival, I realize the tremendous burden put upon you to always give money at every turn of the head. All day long, you walk through the festival and people are asking you for money. Tip me now. Buy this. Purchase that. I would like to offer you the chance to make money right here at this show, because I will give $20 to anyone who stands up, walks down that hill, and teabags that drummer. You hear a moist flopping sound and then silence, you know I owe $20. I don't know how to get you from there. You might have to parachute in. Yeah, you have to go back. Yeah, good. I would have had to borrow $20 anyway. You stopped, though. The threat of teabagging seems to work.
You couldn't find them.
You couldn't find them. Well, thank you for your gamesmanship. You really gave me college. She's foraging for a way out. She had to survive on twigs and berries.
Joey, stop, man.
What is that?
I want my $20.
I want to see the
What do I look like? The Make-A-Wish Foundation. was not a tea bag. No, you would not be standing like that if you tea bag. That was a coffee ground, but not a...
She's come back.
Oh, no, she's fine. Oh, management. Here comes upper management. It's really my fault. I offered $20 for a good tea bagging. I should have known that my audience would have been up for it. Well, where do I go from here? I'll tell you that. No idea whatsoever. A little bit about poetry. I don't write many limericks. I often thought of limericks as the dirty prison hand job of the poetry world. But to be dismissive of limericks is to miss something about poetry. Limericks and poems like them serve a purpose. They present us with recognizable poetic structures. And when we encounter these structures, we come to realize that poetry is not an unnatural means of expression. Why else would we write rhymes to help us remember things? Rhymes such as beer before liquor, never sicker. Or double-jointed cabin boy with buttery lips and big brown bedroom eyes at night. Sailor's delight. The human ear has a natural affinity for rhyme, for meter. As soon as children learn how to speak, they begin writing nursery rhymes and poems. Sometimes I think we think something is humorous only because of the rhythm and the rhyme to it. For example, if I was to say to you, I know of a woman who expectorates vaginally during intercourse. See, nobody laughed at that. But if I was to say, Gerter the squirter with a giny that sloshes, you can lie with her, boys, but be warned, wear galoshes. Well, that is quite a different experience altogether, isn't it? Are you all right? Are you all right? Are you sitting on the vibrating bench? I think it's time now to put this show in my audience's hands. And what better hands to put this show in than yours, sir? And I have a question for you. The question is this: on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most wildly inappropriate to my poems, what would you like to hear?
15.
15, that man's coaching you from the back. He's ordering off the menu from 3 aisles deep into the audience.
You got 11?
Do I have an 11?
Take it to 11.
Are there blondes in Edina? Does anyone not want an 11? What would you like, sir? Have the teabagging one. Oh, you want a 7?
7. We'll work our way up.
You want a 7? Get the fuck out. I would never ever say that. You will never hear me tell anyone in my audience to get the fuck out. I'm so sorry. You want an 11 and you want a 7. I'm going to do a 7.
I want to slurp you down.
Look, people, I want an end to world hunger in a double-jointed Asian with circular breathing skills. Not all going to get what we want. Are you two married? Is anyone here newly married? You are. You're married. When were you married? A year ago. To this lovely woman. Huh. Do you know what an epithalamium is? Well, it's not a very common term at all. An epithalamium is a Greek term that means a wedding poem. Yes. This is about to 7. This is a poem that I wrote, as I've written all my poems, as I am a poet. I am not a cover poet. It is entitled Epithalamium, or the Wedding Poem, and it is for you both. Said the wedding day priest to the bride and the groom, now we've gathered us all beneath this ripening moon, and I'll ask you this once, will you be man and wife? Will you cling to each other all the days of your life? Will you take this good man, though his face starts to weather, and the fingers of time beat his balls into leather, and they sink to the ground like 2 prodigal grapes, and he stinks up the room like a cave-dwelling ape. And he are we all right? Are we all right? And he heavies his pants without hope of correction, and he farts every time that he brings an erection. And the hair on his back meets the fur in his crack, till you need a machete to hew to the sack. The streaks in his shorts point the way to Seville, and you're shooting him enemas just for the thrill. And his teeth tumble out till he's gumming his ham. Now I ask you, my love, would you take such a man? Take as much time as you need. And you, my good boy, will you take this fine lass? Though squish goes her belly and a jelly her ass, and her eyes turn agape, and they jaundice like mustard, and her breath smells of death, and her thighs turn to custard. And that sweet silken purse, and that virginal pink hole, gets torn all to hell like a backwater sinkhole. And her jiggly chin waddles down like a turkey, and her vulva dries up like 2 slabs of beef jerky. Are you all right? Are you all right? That woman wants air. Are you okay, lady? Are you all right? You look like you're choking for air. What is on your head? You look like your head's being attacked by a toilet brush. Where was I? Oh, yes, jerky. Vulva. Vulva jerky. That's not funny. Sounds pretty good. They should sell that at the festival. One of those pickle boys. Give it to one of the feral pickle boys to sell. Vulva jerky. Get it for nothing. Good for what ails ya. Where was I? Let's keep going, shall I? And she hacks and she coughs in great spasmodic fits, and you gag at the sight of those caramelized tits. So I ask you, my man, would you take such a wife? Would you stay at her side all the days of your life? He's got his head in his hand. Oh, yes, said the bride, I will take this good man, and I'll love him and hold him as best as I can. And should time beat his vine so his pizzle won't grow, well, there's always the gamekeeper's son, don't you know? And when husband's away on some business affair, we'll play Ruffle the Grouse with my feet in the air. And I'll second that too, said the man to the priest. She'll be mine throughout time, though her pie turns to yeast. Well, how in the world could I ever resist her? And if she gets fat, well, there's always her sister. And so thus said the priest, well then, screw it, you're wed. Now get thee both gone to that rollicking bed, for you've said all things out. And then the little elf boy slid down the happy window and tumbled off to the lollipop forest, where he had all kinds of enchanting adventures. With Jesus. Can the child in the pirate hat, can he hear me? You in the pirate hat? Okay, he can't hear me. Where was I? And so thus said the priest, well then, screw it, you're wed. Now get thee both gone to that rollicking bed. You've said all the things I was hoping to hear, and if you'd have said no, I'd have done her right here. Why the hell do you care what a priest says anyway? I've not had a good poke since my altar boy days.
Cloud in the sky, thank God.
Too soon. No, I sit in my lonely confessional stall, and you'd think it's Palm Sunday by the sound of it all. And the rest of you bastards, get out in the world. Go find you a man and make love to a girl. Get married, I say. Put a flame to that knife. A heart for a heart, and a man for a wife. If I may say something about that poem, when I wrote it a few years ago, the institution of marriage wasn't as politicized as it's become recently. So that last line, a man for a wife, was not my attempt to make a political statement. Really, I don't care what you marry. You can marry a receptive tube sock, for all I care. And it's not because I'm invested in any particular lifestyle. I personally feel that sex between two men is the most disgusting thing I can imagine that gives me an erection. And the harp played on. Well, we're getting to the point in the show where we may have time for only one more poem. But I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking part in what I see as a great improbability. The improbability that this many people would come out to the middle of nowhere, sit on some ill-constructed benches, with the nail-heads digging deep into your rectums, as they have dug into so many other rectums before yours, just to listen to 40 minutes of a man reciting poetry. Applaud these people. Applaud those people. A few years ago, when I started writing these poems, I had yet to get a stage show, so I would just stand out on these streets, asking the passers-by if they wanted to hear a poem. And they didn't. It wasn't until I started asking, would you like to hear something wildly inappropriate, that you bastards started to give me the time of day. So I want to say thank you for coming to this show. At the end of it, I shall be standing at that little cart in the back of the audience. I will have a basket. If you've enjoyed this show, if you see that I'm trying to do something different and you want to support that, I would greatly appreciate it if, and only if, you give me $5. Feel free to take one of 3 different greeting cards with the poem on the inside. You can send it to someone you hate. Now, there are certain ways for you to take these poems home. This is my newest method. It is my first and latest book of poetry entitled A Gentleman's Treasury of Bedtime Verses to Sodomize By. It is set to chamber music and narration in your own heads. It's not really on the written page. But this has everything you've heard in this show, except, of course, for the teabagging incident. It's hard to put that in a book. But it is wildly inappropriate, deeply offensive, biologically invasive, and I think you'd enjoy it very much. I almost left 2 pages blank in the middle to give you the chance to stick them together on your own. The book is $20, as is this. It is a 70-minute DVD of a show that was filmed at the Southern Theater in Minneapolis. So it's got much more than I could do at this show. If you want another live one, but a CD, this one is for you. It was recorded in New York, and it is 53 minutes. It's got everything that you've heard at this show. And this one sounds like a PBS documentary. But I assure you, it goes utterly to hell. It tells the story of Arthur Greenleaf Holmes. It is terribly offensive, but I will say it is very nice to masturbate to. I love that laugh. I wish I could bottle it and just open it up for my dead shows in Texas. We've got time for one more poem. And who else would I ask for this but this woman right here? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you like to hear?
Your top.
My top?
Yes. All the way.
You want the businessman's lunch.
You know that, sweetheart. You know that.
All right. All right. Okay. Do I do a new poem, or do I do an oldie but a goodie?
New.
Are you sure you want a new poem?
Yes.
If you don't like this one, I will leave you with an oldie but a goodie, but this woman wanted the worst poem that I've done. And I am nothing if not a man who gives the people what they want. This is a poem not for a knot hole, but for a glory hole. It was my effort to try and write poems that have a different meter, a different rhyme scheme, and this is my attempt at mimicking a Walt Whitman poem. It's called Out of the Glory Hole, Namelessly Gifting. It starts slowly, but give it a chance, and I hope you like surprise endings. Applaud that man. At the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, we don't get the chance to see good parenting up close very often. We appreciate it when we see it. Out of the glory hole, namelessly gifting. And thank you for coming to the show, and I'm really sorry for what you're about to hear. Out of the night, out of the dark, seeping night, out of the folds of deep drifted sleep, up from the warm whispered dullness where once I slumbered in a tavern room bed, came a voice murmured to me low. Soft, soft I call to thee. Bend to me now, O friend, for though I know thee not, nor see thee not, yet a gift have I for thee. Whence comes this voice? Is it thou, O hole, O glorious glory hole, that speaks welcome words to me, and hast thou a gift for a stranger unknown and unseen? Come, come, O friend, spake the hole. Come to me now, and receive that gift which I might give. Shall I give thee my hands, O hole, that I might catch the gift? Give not thy hands, for my gift is not to hold. Shall I press mine ear to thee, to receive sweet words? Nor shall you press your ear, for my gift is not of sounds. What then, O hole? How shall I receive thee? O friend, spake the hole. It's not just TV, it's TV with a child peering from behind you. This appears to be a legal case in waiting. What then, O hole? How shall I receive thee? O friend, spake the hole. Give to me thy mouth, thy ruby fretful lips. It is for them to receive. Once again, for those of you watching at home, this is called Out of the Glory Hole, namelessly gifting. I just want everyone to be brought up to speed.
Good job, Clark.
That's right, kid. Choose life. Okay, when last we left the hole in the man, the hole was telling him to give him his mouth. Wait, get your asses back here. They're gonna film this. Watch of these fuckers be the only one that hear this shit. A kiss, then, is it, O hole? Fain would I take it, for though I know thee not, yet do I love thee. Thus to the hole did I press my lips, and there in the night, in the dark seeping night, what through that great glorious glory hole emerged but a tooth sticking out of a turd. Well, that is my show. I want to say thank you very much for coming to it. If you give me $5, just take a card. The CDs, the DVDs, the books, they're back there. They're really piss-your-pants funny. I'm happy to sign anything. And one last thing, do me a favor. Don't tell anyone about this show. You know, I'm really not joking. They hired me to do balloon animals. My name is Greenleaf, Holmes. Thank you very much.